It was billed as a major television moment, a rare and highly anticipated crossover between royal intrigue and daytime television. Silkier than the royal red carpet, Prince Harry seated on The View, ready to speak candidly about everything from his memoir to his life in America, but within minutes of the cameras rolling, the warm atmosphere turned cold, and what began as respectful conversation became a tense battle of words that ended with Whoopi Goldberg, co-host and stalwart of the show, personally ushering him off the set in a moment that would dominate headlines for weeks. What viewers didn't see was the hours of prep leading up to his appearance, producers tiptoeing around questions about Meghan, security protocols ensuring the Duke's ability to roam freely without interruption, and the hosts, Whoopi, Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, Sarah Haynes and Anna Navarro, all aware that his presence promised ratings gold but also the potential for fireworks. The live green room chat had been cordial, even warm. Harry sipped tea and laughed at light-hearted jabs about his American accent and his sudden love of avocado toast, a nod to the nation he'd adopted. But sliding into the hot seat, something changed, whether by design or slip. A question from Joy about Meghan's silence regarding racial issues triggered a tremor, and Prince Harry's measured smile hardened ever so slightly. He leaned in, his voice quiet but firm. "I appreciate that, Joy, but some things Meghan and I have agreed to handle privately, and that's all I plan to share." Whoopi, ever the guardian, could feel the tension coil. She shifted in her chair, deciding she would not tolerate either deflection or derision of crucial topics so casually. As questions turned toward his statements in the memoir about the British tabloids and the royal family's alleged indifference, Harry's tone became more defensive, more clipped, and his answers began to feel rehearsed. He said, "The institution failed us," and the studio murmured. Joy followed up by probing claims of racism in the royal family. Harry's eyes flashed, but his voice lowered. "I've spoken my truth. That's as much as I owe." The conversation exhaled itself out, until Whoopi stepped in. "That's enough," she said, softer than steel but with authority no one could ignore. "This isn't some palace press conference where you dodge and deflect. We asked tough questions, and your silence is an answer. If you can't do this conversation, maybe you shouldn't be here." It was her moment to set the tone, the day's moment. Harry blinked, taken aback, his royal composure rattled. Whoopi continued, "We're not here to make you comfortable. We're here to speak out. If you'd rather duck, then duck." The studio paused. Cameras clicked and whirred. The audience, live and at home, felt the charge crackling through the air. Harry paused, then stood, smoothing his suit. "I came to talk openly," he said, voice calm, "but this isn't openness, it's a trap." He pivoted, shoulders squaring, and walked toward the stage exit. Whoopi didn't flinch. She directed him with a slight gesture, the firmness in her gaze unmistakable. Harry paused at the edge of the set, looked back, and said quietly, "One day I'll answer your questions. But this isn't the day." And he left. The cameras held for a beat, then cut. The show went to commercial, replaced by stunned behind-the-scenes footage, producers scrambling, guests whispering, crew rechecking audio feeds. Nobody had anticipated Whoopi would do more than moderate, but she'd drawn a line that night, and drawn it hard. In the aftermath, social media exploded. Clips of her single bold statement, "If you can't do this conversation, maybe you shouldn't be here," went viral within hours. Hashtag Whoopi stands up, hashtag Harry walks off. Hashtag The View moments trended worldwide. Political talk shows replayed it, pundits dissected the tone, the institution, the standoff, and editorial boards wrote scathing op-eds asking whether Harry had underestimated American television or whether The View had overstepped its bounds. For Harry, the moment replayed in his mind that evening, battling with advisors about whether he'd made the wrong move. But the next morning, his memoir's sales surged as media coverage lit the fire. Meanwhile, Whoopi rose in public esteem. She was praised for refusing to be silenced or seduced by celebrity, championing transparency and holding a public figure to account, a rare thing in an age of access tours and rehearsed appearances. She was lauded by journalists, celebrity watchers, talk show hosts, and feminists. Woody Allen, op-eds across Europe, radio talkers in New Zealand, her words echoed far and wide, moderated but unyielding, as one columnist put it. In subsequent interviews, she was asked if she regretted how it played out. She said, "When someone takes a seat at the table, they take the seat at our table, with our rules," and paused, "and you play by them or you get up and go." The conversation changed in the culture, 2. Conversations about royalty and privacy, about American values and public discourse, whether celebrities and royals owe more tough answers in more exposed arenas, whether television should be a platform for soft PR or hard truths. The View saw a spike in viewership in the following weeks, though numbers tapered once the news cycle turned. And Prince Harry. He kept his silence on TV for months, releasing occasional statements defending his choice but not criticizing the show. It simply wasn't the right forum, he said in a statement. He returned eventually to daytime television, but on a different show, one with softer edges and stricter pre-interview agreements. The royal palace declined to comment on the View incident, but private whispers in palace circles said they appreciated Harry having some sense knocked into him, publicly, firmly, by a woman unafraid to hold him to account. In the end, Whoopi Goldberg kicking Prince Harry off The View wasn't an act of disrespect, it was an act of power. It reminded the world that stars and royalty may come calling, but here, at that table, it wasn't about pedigree, it was about speaking with transparency, dignity, and honesty, and those who couldn't, regardless of title, would be shown the door. It closed then, on Harry's exit, but it opened a global debate about power, responsibility, and the courage to ask hard questions out loud. In the days that followed, the aftershocks from Prince Harry's abrupt exit reverberated not just through the television industry but across political spheres, royal watchers, and cultural commentators from London to Los Angeles, with an intensity rarely seen outside global scandals or state funerals. Media outlets dissected the footage frame by frame, parsing every syllable of Whoopi's now iconic rebuke as if decoding prophecy, while Harry's team remained cloaked in silence, fueling speculation. Had he walked out in anger, shame, or principle? Meanwhile, Whoopi Goldberg remained composed, neither doubling down nor softening her stance in the wake of intense scrutiny, her silence a contrast to the noise erupting around her. For many, she had become a lightning rod, accused by some of ambushing a guest, hailed by others as a bastion of uncompromising journalism in a world increasingly dulled by pleasantries and media training. Anonymous sources close to The View revealed that producers were split. Some believed the moment had elevated the show's cultural capital, proving it could go toe-to-toe with monarchy and win. Others feared it had undermined their credibility with future high-profile guests, painting the show as an unpredictable arena rather than a trusted platform. But even as debate raged, the ratings didn't lie. The episode became the most streamed segment in the show's history, clips dominating TikTok and Twitter timelines with captions like, "Whoopi said what we all were thinking," and "When queens meet royalty, guess who wins?" British tabloids, naturally, took a more scathing view, accusing Goldberg of American audacity, and characterizing the incident as yet another affront to an already beleaguered royal family. Yet, surprisingly, some royal commentators expressed muted admiration for Whoopi's stance, noting that few figures outside the UK had ever dared confront the institution's contradictions with such clarity. Meanwhile, in Montecito, Harry and Meghan stayed quiet. Meghan, while reportedly rattled, offered her husband support behind the scenes, emphasizing his courage to show up at all, knowing how volatile American media could be. Privately, Harry expressed frustration, not necessarily with Whoopi, but with the feeling of being misunderstood, of trying to control a narrative that had long ago spiraled into global projection and myth. In the weeks that followed, he did something few anticipated. He reached out, through intermediaries, not with a lawsuit or demand for an apology, but with a request for conversation. Whoopi, after some initial resistance, agreed. They met privately, not on a set, not in front of cameras, but in a neutral space arranged by mutual contacts. No assistants, no press, just two public figures trying to untangle what had gone so wrong so quickly. The conversation was said to have been long, sometimes tense, but ultimately respectful. They didn't agree on everything. Whoopi held firm that public figures, especially ones who claim moral ground, must face uncomfortable truths. Harry maintained that not every pain deserves public dissection, but they did agree on one thing: both had acted from a place of principle, not ego. It wasn't a reconciliation for headlines. There were no staged photos, no press statements. But the ripple effects of their clash, and quiet meeting, continued to shape how celebrity, royalty, and media navigated one another. Panels discussed it at journalism conferences. It became a case study in communications schools. Fans wrote essays about the Whoopi doctrine, the idea that truth must be demanded, not invited. Eventually, Harry did return to public interviews, but they were different. Less manicured, more present. He began speaking with veterans groups, with trauma experts, in smaller, more intentional spaces. Whoopi, meanwhile, leaned into her role as cultural referee, more respected than ever for her refusal to play nice when the moment demanded courage. And The View, once seen as just another talk show, found itself rebranded in the public imagination, not as sensationalist but as fearless. What began as a heated confrontation transformed into a watershed moment for televised discourse. The echo of Harry's quiet exit and Whoopi's unwavering stare became etched into the history of media confrontation, a reminder that when two worlds, one built on lineage and the other on accountability, collide, the results can be uncomfortable, unpredictable, and profoundly necessary.